In a world where everything seems to be getting louder and faster and more complicated, where we're constantly bombarded with information, opinions, emotional triggers, where there's all sorts of tension and conflict and confusion, it's more important than ever to be able to see clearly, to see what is actually happening, and not just what appears to be happening, but to see with unfiltered perception, to see beyond the narratives, the interpretations, the assumptions and speculations, but to see the world as it actually is. And that's where mindfulness comes in. Now, when most people hear the word mindfulness, they tend to think about being more calm, more at peace. They tend to think of mindfulness as a means to relax and reduce stress. And that's certainly a part of it. But that's not the real purpose of mindfulness. The real purpose of mindfulness is to see clearly, to see things as they actually are, without distortion, without the filters of emotion, belief, or bias that so often cloud our perception. You see, the human mind doesn't just observe reality, it interprets it constantly. It overlays stories, assumptions, and judgments onto what is perceived. It takes raw experience, like a sight or sound or a situation, and instantly translates it into a story. And that story is shaped by our conditioning, by our beliefs, by our past experiences, and whatever emotional state we happen to be in at that moment. Mindfulness helps us to become aware of these tendencies, these filters, these interpretations. It's like cleaning the lens through which we view the world. Most of us don't realize how smudged that lens has become. We're often reacting not to what is happening, but to our interpretation of what is happening. And this creates confusion, conflict, misunderstanding, and unnecessary suffering, both for ourselves as well as for others. But when we slow down and become mindful, we begin to notice the subtleties, like the ways in which our thoughts distort our perception. Maybe someone says something innocent or benign, but because we're already feeling irritated or insecure, we misinterpret their words and take it personally. Or we might read a news story that fits our worldview and reinforces our beliefs. And without even verifying the information, we automatically accept it as truth, even though it could very well be false. But that's not clarity. That's confirmation bias. That's projection. That's seeing what we want to see rather than seeing what is. And it happens all the time because we're generally not aware that it's happening. See, mindfulness really means awareness, but not just awareness of what is happening in the world around us, but more importantly, what is happening within us, in our own minds, in our own way of thinking and perceiving. Seeing clearly means recognizing that your mind has a tendency to overlay things onto reality, fears, desires, interpretations, and that those additions aren't necessarily true. There's a common misconception that mindfulness means getting rid of all your thoughts, but that's not what it means. It's more about watching your thoughts as they come and go, and being aware of how those thoughts shape your perception and influence your emotions. And the more clearly you observe them, the less power they have over you. The more conscious you become of your unconscious mechanisms, the less you tend to be driven by them. Now, don't misunderstand. This kind of clarity isn't cold or detached. It's not about becoming emotionally numb or apathetic. This kind of clarity actually makes you more compassionate toward others, because when you see yourself more clearly, it helps you to better understand others. You understand that other people are also reacting through their own filters of perception, their own conditioning, their own emotional cloudiness. And that insight softens your judgment. Mindfulness isn't just a practice for stress relief, it's a practice of discernment. It trains you to pause before reacting, to look and to listen more deeply, and to question your own assumptions, your own motivations, which leads you to being much more skillful in the way that you engage with others. This is where wisdom resides, in the space between stimulus and response, in that space between perception and interpretation, in that space of clarity. When you practice seeing clearly, you start to recognize how much of your life you've been experiencing through the fog of assumption. You begin to notice how often your emotions dictate your version of events. And with that awareness comes a new kind of freedom, the freedom to choose how you see, how you respond, and what kind of energy you bring into the world. So the next time you notice yourself reacting to something with frustration or anger or fear, the next time you feel insulted or offended, upset or confused, just take a moment to pause. Take a moment to breathe and to allow your emotions to soften and your thoughts to settle. And then ask yourself, what am I really seeing here? Am I reacting to what is actually happening in this moment? Or am I reacting to my interpretation or assumption of what is happening? And even if what you're seeing is what is actually happening, how you respond will often determine what happens next. It may determine whether you make matters worse or make matters better, because mindfulness helps you to respond in the way that is most skillful, in the way that will likely bring about the best result. Because mindfulness isn't about escaping reality, it's about meeting it with open eyes and an open heart. It's about clarity of perception and awareness of oneself. And the more we come into that space, into this vast space of awareness, the more we understand. And with that understanding comes wisdom. The wisdom to make the right decisions, to find solutions to problems, to navigate in a world that often seems chaotic and confusing. The world around us can be very messy. It can feel unstable and uncertain. Things are always changing, and sometimes in the most unexpected ways. But mindfulness gives us a way to find clarity and calmness within ourselves, no matter what's happening around us. And when we see more clearly, we live more wisely. We stop adding to all the conflict and confusion, and instead we bring more clarity, compassion, and understanding into the world. And this is what the world needs. This is what brings about real change. Because as we change the way we see, we change the way we live. And how we choose to live changes the world around us. If you find value in this content, be sure to like, share, and subscribe.